Hi, and welcome to Ticket to Life. This is Henrie. I'm so glad that you are here with me today. Literally, I'm so thankful you've decided to spend some time with me today. How is your life going? Well, I hope you're saying great. I do hope that for you. But just to let you know that you are not alone in anything in your life that you could be going through. Someone somewhere is going through the same identical thing. It's hard to believe that, but it is true. Now, today I'm going to have two topics, and it is about homeschooling and why me, Lord? Yes, I am from the South, as you can tell. But anyway, I do have these two topics because one led into the other when I was thinking about it, and that's just how my brain works. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this podcast with homeschooling and why me, Lord? Because I'm sure at one time in your life you may have said that. Now, I understand that we as adults think we don't change, but we do change. When we say we don't, we do. So how do you feel about homeschooling? Now, there are some parents who are just so much loving this way of teaching their kids, and there's no right way or no wrong way. I myself knew I would not be able to do it. I used to say to myself, I love my kids too much to do this. Why? Because I think I would have been as patient as I feel as though I am. I don't feel like I would have been very good at it. I think I would have lost my patience. And that's horrible to say, but just being honest. And my husband and I were talking about it, and it does take a very special parent or guardian to do this, because basically you're having to go back to school too, learn new things and how things are done. But a lot of people don't agree with it. They think, oh, that's really not good for the kids. But of course, who's to say what is good and what is not? If you're happy with your public schools or your private schools, that's great too. I mean, my kids went to public schools and they turned out great. So, of course, what am I going to say? But they really are. They turned out to be really good human beings. Now, again, I say some parents are so much into loving this, and this is the only way they want to teach their kids. And that is the God honest truth. They feel as though they are capable of doing it. But once they start oh, maybe I can't do this. And that's okay too. I just didn't feel, again, as though I was qualified enough to do it. I don't feel as though my patience was good enough at that time to do that. I was a director at the Mother's Day Out program, and then I was also the preschool for 4 and 5-year-old class there before I became the director. But anyway, I had my patience was great, but of course they weren't my kids. So I think it's different. And I know that some people may not understand that, but for me, it was different. And some states actually give you help with financial assistance to homeschool for their families, like for the materials and other educational expenses through various programs. Like it's called Education Saving Account. Now, here in Texas, so you can look up your state if you're considering homeschooling. In Texas, they don't provide any kind of curriculum materials. Instead, Texas laws do require parents to provide a visual curriculum which covers reading, spelling, grammar, mathematics, and again, good citizenship. In other words, being kind. Now, they have what are called hybrid schools, and that is where the children, the students go face-to-face with instructional online here in Texas and learning. And it's really a good thing for some kids because it is flexible. Especially if your parents travel and they want to take you with them, the family, and you can do your schooling, your education while you're on a vacation, and you can do it because you set a specific time. It becomes such a routine. The reason I am bringing this up is because my daughter's plans to homeschool my granddaughters in Kansas, and I'm all for it. I mean, her degree is in education, but this is what she chose to do. So, of course, I'm going to support them. And the girls, they actually started this summer doing, not every day, but getting them in the routine of doing homeschooling. She has set up her reading center. And I mean, she has sent pictures. She's just an amazing job. So anyway, if you're thinking about it, I think it's great. I really do. I think it's beneficial for some kids because when I was in the 4 and 5-year-old class, there were kids that just could not sit. They just couldn't. And unfortunately, I didn't understand, sit down, sit down. I don't know how many times those poor kids had to hear me sit down, but now I understand some kids don't. They can't sit down. They have to stand. They have to be moving. And I get that now. So, hope I didn't tell that little boy Zachary to sit so much. But he probably remembers Miss Henrie, and all he remembers is, sit down, Zachary. Sit down, Zachary. Sorry, Zachary. I understand now. But anyway, so my daughter's chosen to homeschool. And again, her degree is in education, and she is good at it. And I think it will be successful for my granddaughters. How long will she do it? You can graduate from homeschooling. I don't know if she will continue. We don't know how long they're going to be in Kansas. Hopefully they'll eventually move back to Texas. But that's in God's hands. He knows what they're going to do. But knowing my daughter, she will be successful. I just know that. And making my daughter successful, I know my granddaughter will be successful. And I just wanted to go back to what I'd mentioned earlier when I said we get older and we think one way and we haven't changed our minds about certain things, but we do have to learn to change our minds. I mean, when she first mentioned homeschool, I was like, oh, why? They need to be out there. But my daughter is so good at doing things for her family. It's not even funny. We're so impressed with her motherly skills. She's just amazing. But anyway, I just have something to mention for us people who are older and don't have small children. We have to accept kids for who they are now. Things have changed, people. Now, my daughter lives in a very nice neighborhood, and they have a community pool. And she takes the girls to the pool, and obviously school has started already over there. And the hybrid school and private pre-K school, where the youngest granddaughter will just go 2 days a week, and then she'll do the other schooling and for a few days. But anyway, so the girls, it was funny because she calls me, and she says, Mom, yeah, we went to the pool. And she said, the girls were having a great time. So I can see my granddaughters, and they're having a grand old time. And then an elderly couple showed up. They were probably my age. Me and my husband's age. And my daughter says, yeah, she said, we got more stares and looks from the couple. And my daughter is pretty laid back, and she told the girls lower their fun voices. And I'm sure that lasted for a minute. And as we get older, we need to understand kids will be kids because we were all kids at that time. At one time or not at one time or the other. I'm hoping you were not a young child who had to take over the adult duties. I really hope that because, that happens too. Well, she said the couple left, and I'm sure they weren't happy, but the community pool, right? You better expect something. So I said, well, that's good. They had fun, and those people should have taken, I don't know, earbuds or something if they didn't want to hear kids. So anyway, now the other story that my daughter told me was that they were at a paint store, and the girls were running up and down the aisles. No, they were not. She does not allow that. But I'm sure they would have loved to do that. But anyway, she said that they were in her eyesight where she could see them, and she's looking at the little swatches of paint. And they were playing with painter's tape and pretending they were bracelets and putting on the goggles and pretending they were scientists. Not a big deal. And so a lady looks at my daughter and she's a customer, and she says, "Oh, I bet you can't wait for them to go back to school." So my daughter looks at her and she goes, they're homeschooled." And so the lady just looks at her and goes, "Oh, like, why?" Now, I'm sorry, that's just rude. That's rude. Sorry. That's why I'm saying we just need to tweak the way we think nowadays. We just do. So then another lady asked my oldest granddaughter what school she's going to. And she mentions the name. And she goes, "What is that?" And my daughter says, "Oh, it's a hybrid school." "What is that?" So my daughter goes on to, the girls are going to be homeschooled, and then explains the whole thing. She goes, "Oh," and walks off. I'm sorry, people. Maybe it's because they're my granddaughters, but let's not all blurt out what we're thinking. That goes for me, too. Yes, it is okay to ask, but don't act surprised like aliens from outer space are answering the question. So anyway, after my daughter told me all this, she said, "Mom, I have a mom-to-mom question." I got a little nervous about that question, what it was going to be. Was I going to have the right answer? Although I do always feel honored when my kids ask me something now that they are adults. And again, I hope I have the right answer or the answer they are looking for. And she asked if she should have had the girls just stand with her and wait for everyone to be out of the store or what. Now, for those of you nodding yes, she should have just had them sit still or stand still. I said no. So those of you saying yes, you can either turn this off if you don't want to hear what I have to say, but you may have been raised as I was and the way I raised my kids. And I know this is a very, very old saying that kids are not, or children are meant to be seen and not heard. No. And not because they're homeschooled as this is the way they're being kids. And for some of us older adults, I think we need to rethink that saying about children being seen and not heard is silly. We live in different times. And would my kids have been allowed to go and play with the goggles or painter's tape? Probably not. But I told my daughter this. And I told her, you are such a better parent by letting them explore and not destroy the store. Because she made sure they put everything back in the right place. Times are different. And I would rather her do that than have them sitting on the floor looking at her phone or an iPad. I think she made the right choice. They enjoyed the visit to the store. They behaved themselves. They put things back. And she got to choose the color she was looking for her reading circle, for reading area. So anyway, now I'm going back to homeschool now, but now for those of you that are saying that you would never consider homeschool, I just want to share with you some of the good things about it. I always said, they won't, be able to socialize. They won't know the difference of being with a group. Well, that's what kids are doing now with all the technology and phones. And they may not even be in homeschool. Because kids are losing their social skills. And they're not being homeschooled. They're being with you, the parent. And it's only up to us to control that. But anyway, the good thing about homeschool, in my opinion, is that it is flexible. Their schedules can be flexible. So like my daughter said, if we want to come to Texas, we can come. And this summer when they were here, they did homeschool. They did some curriculum. So it works if you're willing to put that extra work in there. And again, people think that there's no social skills and they're going to suffer. But again, I think kids are already suffering with all the technology that we have. And I think it's sad to say that, but it is up to us to make that change. I think that a lot of kids don't have the peer pressure when they're in homeschool, especially if they're going to a hybrid school. it provides a lot of advantages. It's less stress, opportunities for them to travel with their family. And it is a lifelong passion when you want to teach your kids. I mean, remember back in Little House on the Prairie days, kids were all in one room, different ages, different, learning levels. So that parents can do that now, I think it's great. Actually, as long as it's healthy and a healthy environment for the kids, I think it's wonderful. And honestly, that one-on-one with the homeschooling is great, and that my daughter is putting them also in this hybrid school, I think it's wonderful. So if you ever considered it, think about it. But it does take a really, really special person to homeschool. I believe that. So kudos to all the parents who have chosen homeschool. And for us that thought, what are you thinking? Shame on us. So anyway, that's my take on homeschooling. Now I would like to, this podcast was only supposed to be about why me, Lord. But I don't know. Something led me to talk to you about homeschooling. So now here is why me, Lord. How many of you ever said that? I know that I may have earlier in life if something happened, but if you're listening to Ticket to Life, have you been listening to this podcast for the past 3 years or the past few months, or this is your first one, I just need to mention to you that I am not a worrier. I don't know why. I just don't worry about things, and I'm very thankful for it. I did ask my doctor if this was a normal thing because I had noticed it about 4 or 5 years ago. I thought, I really don't worry about things. I may be concerned, and there is a difference between being concerned and worrying. Now, I haven't, again, always been like this, but I finally realized that when something happens in the world, in my life, in someone else's life, it's literally out of my control. So not being a worrier, I feel like it could be a gift, but at the same time, I know that some people may think that I'm just heartless. Well, if it makes you feel any better to think that I am heartless, that's fine. You're allowed your thoughts and your opinions too. Now, I do need for you to know that I am very far from heartless, and things that happen are just out of our control. So if you tell me about someone getting sick, or you have a broken heart, or someone has lost their job, or something sad has happened in someone's life, I will honestly be supportive. I will comfort you as best as I can. I will encourage you, and I will pray for them and you, whatever you're asking. And rest assured, I will not be unsympathetic and go, oh, well, too bad. I will not be cruel or inhuman and heartless, because that's not who I am. I don't understand why I don't worry. I don't know, but I'm thankful for it. I'm not saying I never worry. I'm sure I do. It's just when I realize things are out of my control, that I have to just let it go. So I don't understand another thing. I don't understand why there is so much hate and anger in this world. I feel as though Satan is working overtime. Now, that being said, here's my disclaimer. I am not a therapist. I am not a doctor. I'm not a life coach, and definitely not a preacher. I'm Henrie, and these are my thoughts and my opinions. So I have a past podcast. It was episode 138. I think it was last year, 2 years ago. I don't even know. And it's called, It's Not a Job Thing. Now, if you know the story of Job, then you might understand where I'm coming from. And that is when you hear someone, in my opinion, saying, God, why me, Lord? Why me? My question, why not you? Not sure if we know that things are not always going to go our way. They're just not in life. We should know this by now as adults. And for many of us, such as myself, I'm hoping that you start to look for a lesson when you think, why me, Lord? The lesson in life that is going to be coming out of left field from something that has happened in your life. Now, you may not like the lesson either. Now, I know that I haven't always processed life's trials and tribulations like this, but walking with God now sure opens up your eyes to a lot of things. Now, certain diseases are something that we have no control over. Yet, we do know that by watching what we eat, how we take care of our bodies, and such can be helpful for our health. But if you do get a disease, sometimes it isn't that you've done something wrong in life, and this is a consequence of sin or test of faith. And yes, I actually used to believe this when I was younger. But now I do know it's not. And I know many who do get closer to God if they are gravely ill. And that's not a bad thing. Sometimes you've heard that some say, I prayed and God healed me. Why not? If he can cure a blind man to see, a person with leprosy, and drive out an evil spirit, he can do anything to help during your why me, Lord moment in life. But yes, there is a but. You have to know what you may not get the answer to your prayers you wanted, and you may not realize the right answer that's in front of you or how it happened. And you may not realize this for a few days, months, years, and then finally have the aha moment when you realize the answer to your prayer request was something you never thought of. And then say, that's why I had to go through what I did. God is blessing you right now, and you don't even know it. Sometimes we don't see things that are right in front of us. Blessings. And it's hard to accept that getting out of bed every day is a blessing. That going to your job is a blessing. Having a family is a blessing. Being thankful for your health is a blessing. Now, I always say God is good. And I actually have a tattoo on my shoulder blade. And it says God is good. I do regret not getting it somewhere I could see it. But I always figured if someone was standing behind me and I was wearing a sleeveless top, they would be able to read and remind them that God is good. Now on my car, on my back window of the car, I have, He knows my name, Isaiah 43:1. So the driver behind me remembers that He knows their name. I just want everyone who is listening to know. Sometimes things look horrible in life. And remember, we have the option of taking the wide road or the narrow road. That wide road usually has more detours. The narrow road is harder to pick sometimes. The other reminder is that it's not a Job thing. Again, if you don't know the story of Job, look it up in the Bible, Google it. And that there is a lesson in life from anything that we go through. It may not come right away, the lesson, or you may not ever even realize it, I guess. But we are loved and we are cared for. And I love to tell everyone that you are loved and you are worth eternal happiness. If someone has told you differently, don't listen to that. Don't listen to what that negative voice has said. And if you beat yourself up about your past, it's time to let it go. Because you can't say, why me, Lord, anymore. You got to move on. Letting go of certain things is so hard. Again, we are loved, and I wish you more love and happiness in your life. And perhaps, who knows, you might be behind me while I'm driving or behind me in the store and see He knows my name, or God is good. So I want to thank you for taking time to listen to Ticket to Life today. And I do want to mention, may John forgive me, but we have found the best air and heating company here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And I'm thankful for them because, our Texas summers are so stinking hot. But we chose, well, I didn't choose to live here. This is where I was just born. But I love Texas. But anyway, our AC went out, I guess, in July, the one downstairs. Luckily, we have 2 units, and upstairs we were able to sleep. But the name of this company is A+. It is there. I will put this on the description of this podcast, and it is A+, and you can ask for John. He's the senior technician. They are LLC. They are certified. They are amazing. The office number is 945-237-5986, and that's in the Dallas-Fort Worth area here in Texas. I don't think if you call from Washington, they're going to go up to Seattle and fix your heating or air. But anyway, I will put their website on the description. And if you need someone, I will tell you their service there was amazing, and they will give you a free second opinion. If you've had one opinion and you're like, I'm not too sure, call A+ Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration LLC. Well, all good things must come to an end. I hope you didn't feel as though this was a scolding, but if you did, well, so be it, I guess. Anyway, thank you again for listening. I will be praying for you, and don't forget, God is good, and go find your blessings. Can't wait to see you next week. Take care of yourself.